what's the best area to even get a tattoo? There's a couple, and there's some places that you should avoid as well. One of the best places to get a tattoo is going to be forearm, arm, leg, or even your lower leg around the calf area. Some places that you're going to want to definitely avoid are going to be lower ankle, foot, armpit, hands, and the reason being is going to be because of sweat. Sweat in the skin will expand the ink, and then it'll also pop out a lot of that ink, so you want to really avoid those areas. So my top areas to definitely get tattooed are going to be anywhere on the arm, avoiding the armpit of course, and then anywhere on the leg. And the reason being also to avoid probably that mid-range area is just because if you're not going to a super experienced tattoo artist, it's easier to blow out the area when you're closer to the bone. So you just got a tattoo and you come home and it looks like it's a little bit blown out or bleeding and expanding. What does that even mean? So you're gonna wanna wait for your tattoo to heal. Sometimes you can see a blowout before then, but what it's called is a blowout. And the reason why is it even called a blowout is because your artist just went a little bit too deep. You have your layers of skin, and once you go below that, it doesn't hold the same with the ink. It actually mushroom clouds out. And that's why for some people, you can either see the ink expand drastically on top of it, which can be a blowout or overworking the skin, or they just went a little bit too deep. And that's when you can kind of see that bruise underneath that tattoo. It's called a blowout. Now, what do you do when you get a blowout? There's really not much that you can do besides either a cover-up or removing. And removing, I would suggest laser every time. Saline is just gonna be a little bit too painful, and you really have to get to that very bottom layer, and it's just gonna be too hard on the skin and scar it. What's another reason why the ink will expand? Sweat, sun exposure, improper aftercare. It can be all of those different factors. So you want to make sure that you're really taking care of your tattoo, figuring out what you can do before and after the application, and then making sure that you go to a trusted artist who has a lot of experience with the area and the style that you're wanting. Red flags for a tattoo artist. Let's talk about some things that you can look out for to make sure that you're going to a reputable artist and not going to somebody who's gonna do you dirty. One thing that you're gonna want to look for is their environment. Is it sanitary? So definitely looking at how they're setting up their stations. Are they gloved up? Are they touching things all over the place and then you're having cross-contamination? And keeps a clean environment. After looking at if they have a clean environment, the next thing that you're gonna wanna look for is their communication. How have they talked to you since booking the appointment, and how are they interacting with you during the appointment? They're being super impatient on where you're wanting your tattoo, the style, not wanting to answer all of your questions. That's a huge red flag. That's somebody that's too impatient. I'm gonna be worried that they're rushing your tattoo, which is absolutely not okay for the skin as well. But you wanna make sure that you're making the right decision too. So finding an artist that's okay with telling you do's and don'ts, best practices, being patient with all of the questions that you do have, and then when you get there, if they're impatient about placing your stencil somewhere, I've even heard this before, you can only place a stencil twice. By the way, that's complete BS. That is not true. You can take it off as many times as you want. You want to find an artist that's going to sit there with you until you figure it out. Now, don't go along and spend 45 minutes trying to figure it out. You should have an idea ahead of time and be okay with your artist giving you a little bit of direction one way or another, but definitely look for that communication. Another red flag for a tattoo artist is how long have they been tattooing? Have you seen their healed work? When looking at somebody's healed work, that tells you even more than the actual tattoo application and the photos that they normally post. One of the biggest irks that I see online is all these Photoshop tattoos. When you're looking for an artist, ask for the healed photos, or they should have them on their profile. Don't look for these fresh tattoos that are all photoshopped and have these great highlights, because that's not what they look like in person, and that's not what they age with.